Hey guys, Peter here to do an album review today. I'm here to tell you all about the latest from Sevendust, Blood and Stone, out October 23rd on Rise Records. This album has 13 tracks, 49 minutes in length, and this is the band's 13th full-length studio album. This album can be divided into three main core elements: structure, sound, and vocals. As far as structure is concerned, I was really surprised, and I'm really excited about the structure that they decided to create for this record. That structure is cyclical. This album comes at you in cycles. Now, those cycles are equal. There's no difference between them. They're constructed in the same way. So it's almost like the album resets itself every 4 to 5 songs and it restarts itself all over again because each cycle has the same construction, has the same DNA, has the same soundscape, and definitely the same approach. So you feel like you're restarting the record every so often. The album starts off with a track that has a lot of intensity, has a lot of aggression built into it, and then some of those elements start to dissipate as you move into the second track, as you move into the third track. They become replaced with perhaps a little bit more melancholy in the way the song comes across, or the way the songs come across, and then you start to feel like you're entering a different mood, a different stage of the record. But then it resets itself and the cycle begins again, and you're back to where the album started. So the overall idea behind this is that it allows the listener to feel like you're getting re-engaged with the album every 3 to 4 songs, and it allows the band to create songs that have some of the same mechanisms, some of the same structures, even some of the same soundscapes without sounding repetitive. Because by the time the second cycle starts, you almost forgot where the first cycle started. You forgot some of the elements that those songs had because you've kind of been dulled up by the melancholy that the other tracks had, by the emotional baggage that the other tracks had. So by the time that cycle restarts itself, you feel reinvigorated, you feel refreshed, almost like you're listening to the album for the first time. So I like this reigniting of the record, cycle after cycle. It really allows the album to come to life, to be super fluid and very dynamic. Overall, as far as sound is concerned, is really well balanced. I really like what they did here. All the elements really work well with each other. There's not one that's in the forefront of the others, that's dictating where the others are going. They all working in unison in order to create the most balanced sound possible. One element that I thought was interesting throughout the record, because it plays a role, but not necessarily a predominant role, is the little bit more of electronic use throughout the record. Some keyboards, some synths, there's a little bit of that throughout the album. Now, it's not overused because it's not necessarily in the forefront of every single song, but it peeks its head throughout the record. It definitely adds a different dynamic. It definitely adds a different soundscape. In my opinion, is not there just to create melody, because they could have used other techniques, they could have used other elements to do that. In my opinion, is there more for an atmospheric perspective. It really sets a different balance. It really creates a very groovy and a very cool bass line where you can build everything upon it and allow it to just be a layer within the tracks, almost hidden within the tracks, and not necessarily dictate where you're going. So it adds something fresh, it adds something new to the songs. It definitely adds a different vibe to the track, but it doesn't command the presence of the song itself. The guitars on this record within that sound still are very diverse. I really like what they did here. Groovy, melodic, a little bit heavier at times, a little bit more raw, but always pushing the songs, always giving life, always pushing the direction of where they want the song to go, pairing extremely well with the drums in order to create this full force, this full-fledged sound. The tracks that have a little bit more bite, that have a little bit more heaviness to it, the drums and guitars play this perfect role, this tag team of really working well together in order to create the biggest sound possible for those tracks. The ones that are a little bit more stripped down, that have more of an emotional drive, the guitars are there to kind of balance that out, to kind of caress you through the transitions that those songs have. Extremely good work as far as the guitars are concerned and the overall sound presence that this album has. Vocals. The vocals by LJ are absolutely phenomenal on this album. It's definitely one of the highlights of the record. The first thing that I said to myself after listening to this album was, how incredible are the vocals on this record? They're just outstanding. On a track-by-track basis, there is an approach, there is a technique, there is a range. but the emotional response that he brings from the lyrics to the delivery is just outstanding. You really feel the energy of the tracks. You really feel the lyrics. You feel that he's talking to you, that there's a message that's coming across. And you get that from an incredible vocalist who knows exactly how to get the most out of himself, but also serve the songs in the best way possible. Really not worried about what he needs to do, but more so worried about what the song needs for me. And I felt that this was a record where he absolutely outshined almost all the other different elements, because this record really shows what a kind of vocalist he is, how good he is. His voice is outstanding. I also really like the layers that they use throughout the record. I think it's really important for an album like this to have that ability to create layers throughout the tracks. So you're not necessarily bringing heaviness to the song by adding different vocal layers, but you're definitely adding volume and presence throughout the tracks, making the tracks more dynamic, making the tracks feel a little bit fuller, that they have more energy, that they have more life. But all around, the vocals on this record are definitely one of the beacons, one of the highlights of this album. Overall, this album is not heavy. It's not a heavy-driven record. Sure, there are some songs that have a little bit more bite. There are momentums. This is, like I said before, this album is cyclical. So there are those songs that bring a little bit more presence, bring a little bit more aggression, a little bit more meat on the bone, if you will. But overall, this is a very emotionally driven, a very melodic record, which the vocals really command presence, and they're really the commander-in-chief, if you will, of where the tracks go and what kind of atmosphere, what kind of mood you're going to get from each and every single song. I love the emotional output that this album creates. It really resonates well with the lyrics and with the songs and sound that they created for this album. I want to talk about 3 of my favorite tracks now on this record, and it was really hard to pick 3 because this is an album that has a lot of great songs to offer, but these 3 from the moment I listened to the album were the immediate ones that jumped at me. And I want to start off with Love. Has a little bit of that electronic driven sound to it, and you notice it more as the song opens. It dissipates through the different layers of the track as you progress through the song, but it stays there. The song gains some strength as it progresses. It's a song that moves from verses to pre-chorus and chorus, and you feel like it's gaining speed. It's gaining not necessarily speed, but it's definitely gaining momentum, and it's gaining a little bit of aggression and intensity as it progresses through those different stages. Once you get to the chorus, you reach the climax. The chorus has this huge wall of sound coming at you. The volume just seems a lot bigger, and the vocals add to that. The vocals add power to the presence that the chorus has. The electronic elements add an interesting soundscape, add a very melodic, a very almost space-style soundscape to it, but they don't really impact the overall feel, the overall sound, the overall presence, the intensity that this track has, and definitely do not impact how the vocals come across at all. Next, Kill Me, almost a music box style sound as the song opens up. A very dark and sinister perhaps opening, but I really like it because it plays well with the overall mood that the lyrics on this track have. The vocals take center stage on this song. They really direct the track and where the song needs to go at any given time. The guitars offer a little bit of a heavier bite on this track. They definitely have a little bit more substance to them. And this overall sound becomes a little bit uncertain. This is a song that comes at you in jolts. It's not necessarily linear in its approach from top to bottom. It's a song that comes and goes in waves. It gives you jolts of energy. It takes them away. It comes back again. It gives you another jolt, and then it takes it away. I love that approach. I love that feel because it allows the song, once again, to be very fluid and very dynamic. The chorus is definitely a little bit more melodic, musically and vocally. Vocally is very haunting. I felt that the delivery of the vocals on this track really crossed that border between the melody and the hauntingness that it has. It just becomes a little bit dark, a little bit somber. But that's also a result of the lyrics of the song and how the chorus comes about. But overall, a very driven, dynamic, fluid song top to bottom. Last but not least, Against the World. This is my favorite track on the album. You feel the melancholy on this song. You feel it musically and you feel it vocally. Some of the heaviness from the guitars and drums on this track is one of the reasons why this track moves and moves so well. Perhaps one of the heavier songs on the album, and the combination of those two elements is what gives it that substance, is what gives it that heaviness. It really pushes the song forward. It stays balanced throughout verses and chorus. This is a song that doesn't really offer a break between these two worlds. It stays very consistent between them. And that allows the song to flow even better and to remain very cohesive from start to finish. The chorus is slightly more melodic than the verses, so there's a change there, but I felt that that change came more from the vocal approach than it did from the music and the musical layers that the track has within itself. So I felt the change was more provided to us by how the vocals came across, adding a different layer, adding a different delivery, adding a different tone. Overall, this is a great song. I love the guitars on this track. I love the drums. I love the cooperation between those two elements in order to give this song the strength musically that it needs. And then I love the dynamic fluidity that the vocals have, offering heaviness when they need to, but being very dark and melancholic when it calls for it. This is it. Sevendust, Blood and Stone, out October 23rd on Rise Records. Let me know your thoughts on the band, on the singles. Use the comment section below. I'll be reading those and getting back to you. Take care, guys.